Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Today's video is on a much requested topic, that of how to play 50s style rock and roll guitar. Essentially, I hope to show you how to play guitar like this. Now, before we get into a discussion of what scales are involved and what licks you can play and so on, it's worth taking a moment just to perhaps look at getting the right sound to play this style. So, the first thing I would say is a bridge single coil pickup is a good starting point. I used this guitar, the Gordon Smith GS 1.5, which, as you know, has a bridge humbucker, but you can switch it to single coil mode, so that's what I did. And didn't it do a rather good job of sounding a bit like a Telecaster, I thought. Anyway, the next thing is don't have too clean an amp sound. I mean, I'm not suggesting you dial in, Cradle of Filth or Napalm Death style guitar tones, obviously not. But, have a little bit of grit in there. The basic sound I used for that solo was essentially the same patch on the amp modeler that I would use to play an AC/DC style rhythm guitar part. So, perhaps a little bit more overdriven than you think. And then to that core sound, which I recorded dry, I always record guitar parts dry and then add effects later, I added a little bit of delay and a little bit of reverb. I'll tell you what, here is a little snippet of just the raw guitar track from that solo, and you'll hear it starts off dry, and then you'll hear the delay come in, and then you'll hear the reverb come in as well, and you can kind of get an idea what each little part of the signal chain is bringing to the party. Here it is. Anyway, let's now discuss what notes are being played, and as you know, we group notes together into families called scales that we can conveniently derive licks from. So here's a little bit of an insight into what scales were involved in that solo. Okay then, let's have a look at the scales. We're going to start off with what is probably the most obvious one, the E minor pentatonic. And in any form of blues-related music, like rock and roll, it's quite commonplace to mix the minor pentatonic and the major pentatonic together. So here's E major pentatonic. And when you mix those two scales together, you get something called the hybrid scale, which would look like this. Which is quite messy sounding really, which is why it's never really used in that context. What you'll find yourself doing more than anything else is using maybe a minor pentatonic lick and then just throw in a couple of notes from the major pentatonic to sweeten it a little bit, like this. Or maybe using it as a major pentatonic lick and throwing in a couple of minor pentatonic notes just to kind of turn it a little bit bluesy, maybe like this. That kind of thing. And another benefit of doing these two scales together is that you get, by default, a couple of modes without really having to think about it. You get the E Dorian mode, and you also get the E Mixolydian mode. And all of those scales, or just some of them, or any combination thereof, are basically the fuel that we're going to use to create all the licks in this style of music. And you can use those scales, or any combination of them, to create maybe double stop licks. Double stops are a big part of playing rock and roll guitar. I did a video on double stops a while ago, so check that out if you get the chance. And anyway, you might get some licks like this. Or even this. And also you can chain the notes of those scales together to create riffs and runs that might go a little bit like this. Or even this. Now, looking at another aspect of how you can play rock and roll 50s style guitar, there's a lot of work here where we're playing kind of around chord based ideas, and I covered the topic of chord substitution in a recent video on approaches to blues rhythm guitar. So if you want some more information on that and the tritone ideas that we're going to talk about shortly, then I've put a link to that video in the description box below. So check that out if you want a little bit more in-depth ideas. But basically what you can do is, let's say you're playing over an E7 chord and you want to create some arpeggio style licks. One of the things that you can do is you can take a C sharp minor chord and a B minor chord, both of which chords are in the same mode as the E7 chord, and you can just play a little triad arpeggio style licks over the top of the E7 chord using those ideas, and it might sound a bit like this. And as I said earlier, a moment ago, in that blues rhythm guitar video that's in the description box, I also covered the whole topic of tritones. Now, tritones are basically a pair of notes which are 6 frets apart, and they naturally occur inside any dominant 7th chord, like an E7 or an A7 or whatever. And given that we're playing in a blues-based genre here, rock and roll, it has very strong roots in blues, then you're going to be finding 7th chords all over the place, dominant 7th chords. So it's quite easy to include those tritone ideas in your rock and roll soloing as kind of like a double stop based lick, a bit like this maybe. And another very simple method of creating some kind of lead guitar idea, maybe something that's not quite full on lead guitar, but it's definitely got a bit of shape to it, and it's certainly kind of one step above regular rhythm guitar playing, is to use chord shapes. Basically just do like a kind of bluegrass or fingerstyle, country and western-ish style fingerstyle pattern on with your right hand on the strings, and just hold down a chord shape while you're doing it. You can come up with all sorts of ideas, including these. So there you go, using the major pentatonic, using the minor pentatonic, using the combination of the two in the form of the hybrid scale, and maybe playing around with a couple of the modes, the two modes that come out of that as a result, the Dorian mode and the Mixolydian mode, and getting the right guitar sound and playing around with chord-based ideas and double stops and stuff. That pretty much is how I approach playing 50s style rock and roll guitar, and it served me pretty well in a few of the bands that I've played in where we've tackled that genre. So I hope you found this useful. I hope you found it informative and maybe even a little bit inspiring, and if you have, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell and give me a like while you're at it as well. Why not? And if the rather kind of oblique mention of modes in this lesson has whetted your appetite for some more information on that, then I have a course on sale at the moment. It's called Making the Modes Easy, and it's up on the Udemy tuition platform, where it's getting a lot of nice things said about it. 4 and 5-star reviews from all of the people who've bought it, and you can get it there. That is a URL to take you to my website. The link is obviously in the description box below, and that will then take you to the Udemy platform where you can purchase the course. It says on my website that it costs $39.99, but Udemy have always got discounts and offers on, so you're very unlikely to be paying full price for it. And yeah, even though I say so myself, it is good value. You get everything you need to become quite the expert on modal guitar playing. Or if you prefer to have some tailored one-to-one guitar tuition, then get in touch with me via the details at the end of this video. If you live on Teesside in the northeast of England, you can come along for a face-to-face lesson. Or wherever else you are in the world, you can have a lesson via Skype, and whichever way you do it, your first lesson is of course free. So what have you got to lose? And with that, I'll bid you all a good day. The sun is shining here, the weekend is almost upon us, and I'm going to go and have a beer. So I'll see you all next time, folks. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.